Violence has erupted in Kinshasa, the capital of the Democratic Republic of Congo, as protesters attack multiple embassies in response to the advance of M23 rebels in the east. The embassies of France, Rwanda, Belgium, Uganda, and the U.S. were targeted, with a fire breaking out at the French embassy. The government claims police are regaining control and security has been increased. Meanwhile, M23 rebels claim to have captured Goma, the region's largest city, forcing thousands to flee. The UN accuses Rwanda of supporting M23, with 17 peacekeepers killed in the past week. Fighting in Goma continues, though reports are difficult to verify due to power outages and overwhelmed hospitals. At least 17 people have been reported killed as heavy fighting continues in Goma, a major city in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, amid an assault by M23 rebels. The rebels claim to have taken full control of the city, though the Congolese government disputes this. The violence has triggered a mass exodus, with thousands of civilians fleeing across the border into Rwanda. Goma, home to approximately 2 million people, has already been struggling with an ongoing humanitarian crisis due to years of conflict in the region. M23 rebels, who claim to be protecting the rights of the people in the DRC, have long been accused of being backed by Rwanda, a claim that Rwanda denies. However, many analysts suggest that beyond ethnic justifications, the conflict is also deeply tied to economic and political motives, particularly the exploitation of the region's vast mineral resources. Some rebel leaders and politicians have even called for the overthrow of the Congolese government in Kinshasa, adding another layer of complexity to the crisis. The M23 movement is not new, having previously seized Goma in 2012 before being pushed out by a coalition of Congolese forces, UN peacekeepers, and regional troops. The group later resurfaced, taking advantage of the weakness of the Congolese army, which is underfunded, poorly trained, and often plagued by issues of internal loyalty. Meanwhile, the UN peacekeeping mission, MONUSCO, has been criticized for its inability to effectively prevent the escalation of violence, as its mandate is primarily focused on protecting civilians rather than engaging in direct combat against powerful rebel forces. The geographical positioning of Goma further complicates military operations. With Rwanda to the east, Lake Kivu to the south, and rebel positions to the north and west, the city is effectively surrounded, making it difficult for government forces to mount an effective defense. Civilians remain trapped in dangerous conditions, with hospitals overwhelmed by casualties, power outages persisting for days, and humanitarian aid struggling to reach those in need. The broader regional implications of this crisis are significant. Burundi has already deployed forces into the DRC to combat another rebel group, Red Tabara, while Rwanda justifies its actions by citing the presence of the FDLR, a militia with ties to perpetrators of the 1994 genocide. Meanwhile, Kenya and other East African nations have sent troops under a regional intervention force, but their efforts have so far failed to stabilize the situation. The ongoing hostilities threaten to further destabilize the Great Lakes region, exacerbating long-standing tensions between neighboring countries. Beyond the military and political dimensions, the economic stakes of this conflict are substantial. The eastern DRC is one of the world's richest regions in terms of mineral wealth, including valuable resources like coltan, gold, and cobalt. For years, these resources have been subject to illegal exploitation and smuggling, often fueling armed groups and external actors with vested interests in maintaining instability. The looting of these minerals has not only prolonged the conflict but has also raised questions about the role of international companies and foreign governments in profiting from the chaos. As the fighting continues, the humanitarian toll grows. Millions of people have already been displaced by previous waves of violence, and the latest surge in fighting is worsening an already dire situation. Reports indicate that civilians in Goma are unable to access basic medical care due to the fighting, while many are too afraid to leave their homes. Humanitarian organizations warn that without urgent intervention, the crisis could spiral further out of control, leading to even greater loss of life and suffering.